A voiceover rises, soft but laced with danger, and as London watches, whispers grow louder. Secrets twist into stories, and the truth becomes a luxury no one can afford. The scene ends with a close-up of a letter sealed in blue wax, sliding beneath a door. The seal bears a single symbol, one that promises more scandal than the tongue can handle. Because now, everyone is talking. And the more they talk, the more Violet and Marcus are pushed into the unforgiving spotlight of society's hungry gaze. Night settles over Bridgerton house, the kind of stillness that feels almost heavy, as though the walls themselves are waiting for something to break. The candles burn low, their flames bending in every direction, flickering like hearts unsure of which way to turn. Violet walks slowly through her room, her hands grazing the edges of familiar furniture she once leaned on for support, comfort, and certainty. But tonight, even certainty feels like a stranger. She pauses at her dressing table, fingers brushing the smooth surface. Her reflection in the mirror is a blur of soft edges and dim light. No face, only a silhouette of woman, torn between who she has always been and who she might still have the chance to become. Her breath catches as she presses a hand to her chest, feeling the soft ache growing there. An ache she thought she had buried long ago. Downstairs, Marcus stands near the grand staircase, one hand resting on the banister. The shadows cling to him, stretching long across the floor. He looks toward the door, toward the street, toward the world outside that offered him safety from painful memories. Leaving would be easy, but the thought of walking away from Violet again feels like stepping into a storm he may never escape. His jaw tightens as he lifts a folded letter, the one he never meant to bring. The one meant only for Violet. The scene cuts to a quiet dinner table, long, elegant, tense. The Bridgerton family sits in calm politeness, yet the silence between each clink of silverware is louder than any conversation. Violet sits at the end, spine straight, lips gently pressed together. She doesn't taste the food. She doesn't hear the laughter. She only hears the unspoken questions. Why is he here? What does he want? And why does she feel anything at all? Her gaze lowers to her plate, but her hand trembles. She hides it beneath the tablecloth. After all, a Bridgerton does not reveal her unrest. But the tremble returns the moment she thinks of Marcus's quiet, steady-eyes that seem to remember everything she tried to forget. Then, as the family dinner fades into soft darkness, the camera shifts to Violet alone in the garden. Moonlight spills over her figure, turning her into a fragile outline against the night sky. She lifts a torn piece of parchment, a letter she once wrote but never sent. Her thumb slides over the edges, worn from years of hiding. She closes her eyes. A single tear falls, landing softly on the paper, soaking into it like the truth she can no longer deny. Marcus stands behind her in the shadows, watching. Not close enough to intrude, but close enough to care. He sees her shoulders rise and fall with unsteady breath, and something inside him tightens. He wants to step forward. He wants to speak, but he hesitates, knowing one wrong word could reopen wounds they both spent a lifetime trying to heal. A voiceover whispers through the night, raw and steady. But every love story carries its trials, and Violet must choose between the expectations that shaped her life and the desires she has kept buried deep within her heart. The section closes with Violet dropping the torn letter into a fountain, watching it float before sinking beneath the water, because sometimes the hardest love is not the love you lose, but the love you never allowed yourself to want. The screen bursts into motion as if London itself can no longer stay still beneath the weight of rising desire and deepening danger. The gentle elegance of earlier scenes is going to now replaced by urgency, heat, and choices that threaten to unravel everything. The world Violet and Marcus once knew begins to spin, every moment accelerating toward a fate neither of them can outrun. A carriage races down a narrow road lit only by moonlight, its wheels throwing sparks as it turns sharply. Inside, only a silhouette is visible, Marcus leaning forward, bracing against the violent motion of the ride. His shoulders tense, as if he fears he might already be too late for something he hasn't yet dared to name. Cut sharply to Violet, Actually running through the Bridgerton garden, her gown sweeping across stone paths. She clutches a folded letter against her chest, the paper trembling in her grip. Her silhouette is frantic, torn between duty and the truth pounding in her chest. Each breath she takes seems to burn, each step pushing her further from the safety she once lived in. The montage quickens, flashes of moments colliding like thunder. A meeting in a darkened corridor where Marcus grabs Violet's wrist, pulling her from danger. A heated argument, their silhouettes close enough to touch, voices rising and breaking in equal measure. A tear slipping down Violet's cheek as her family watches from a distance. Helpless to understand the depth of her conflict, the scene shifts to a hidden garden at night. Petals falling like soft rain as the two silhouettes stand inches apart. Marcus steps forward, but before he can reach her, a harsh lantern light cuts across them, catching them in a moment far too intimate for London's cruel gossip. The light burns away their fragile privacy. Violet steps back, breath shaking, the fragile hope in her hands beginning to crumble. Next, a crowded ballroom erupts into chaos. A whispered rumor travels from one dancer to another, spreading like fire. Fans snap shut, gloves tighten. Heads turn sharply toward Violet, whose stillness in the center of the room feels like being struck by 1,000 judging eyes. Marcus pushes through the crowd, panic in the way he moves, desperation in the way he reaches for her. The montage intensifies. A door slamming shut with enough force to shake the frame. Marcus standing in the rain, drenched, gripping a letter as though it's the last piece of hope he has left. Violet staring at a burning fireplace, torn letters turning to ash as she whispers something unheard. A hand Marcus's hand, reaching out in the dark, trembling, waiting. Violet's hand hovering above his, then pulling away. A slow, nearly silent beat follows a moment, suspended in heartbreak. The music softens, but the tension only sharpens. A deep voice breaks the silence. Filled with urgency and truth, betrayals, revelations, redemption, and a love bold enough to challenge every rule society dares to enforce. Montage ends with a flash of lightning, illuminating Violet and Marcus, standing on opposite sides of a great halt, shadows fighting against the world, and perhaps against each other. Because in this moment, London isn't just watching, it's choosing sides. The screen fades into a quiet dawn-soft. Pale light spreading across the Bridgerton garden as the night's chaos slowly settles into silence. Dew clings to every petal, glistening like tiny promises of what could still be saved. The world has not yet awakened, and for this single fragile moment, time slows enough for truth to breathe. Violet steps into the garden, her silhouette outlined by the rising sun. She walks slowly, each step measured, as though she fears the ground beneath her might give way. There is no elegance here, no practiced composure. Only a woman finally exhausted by the weight of choosing between duty and desire. Her hands hang by her sides, fingers trembling with the things she's never allowed herself to say. Across the garden, Marcus stands waiting, not boldly, not confidently, but with the quiet vulnerability of a man who has run out of excuses to stay away. His posture, once firm, now softens. His shoulders lower. His breath slows. He looks at Violet as if seeing her not as London sees her, but as she truly is beneath the silence, the fear. In the years of carefully built walls, the distance between them is small, yet feels impossibly vast. A single path separates them, lined with roses that open toward the sunlight. For a moment, neither moves, neither speaks. They simply stand, the air between them thick with everything, unsaid, the memories unspoken, the mistakes unhealed, the love unleaved. Violet inhales deeply, her silhouette shaking just once before she steadies herself. She steps forward, the gravel crunching softly beneath her feet. Marcus's breath catches as she approaches, as though he fears she might vanish if he blinks. She stops just a few steps away, her hands twisting slightly before falling still. A soft breeze sweeps through the garden, pushing a single rose petal between them. It floats slowly, drifting down until it lands near Marcus's shoe. The world holds its breath. in a voice almost too fragile to belong to her. Violet finally speaks, a whisper carried by the morning air. Perhaps it is not too late. The moment stretches, warm and delicate, until Marcus steps closer, not enough to touch, but enough to show he is choosing her, choosing this impossible, beautiful, terrifying truth. A warm light floods the screen as a voiceover rises, gentle but powerful, this season. Love rewrites the rules. And for Violet Bridgerton and Marcus Anderson, the story is only just beginning. The camera pulls back as the two silhouettes stand facing each other in the golden garden. The world around them glowing with new possibility. No kiss, no embrace. Just a fragile, hopeful stillness more intimate than any touch could be. The screen fades to black. Bridgerton. Season 4, 2026. Violet and Marcus rewrite the rules of romance. Only on Netflix, a final whisper slips through the darkness. As soft as a secret, dearest gentle viewer. Prepare yourself. A soft hush falls over the grand halls of London as a single truth rises. Even the quietest heart can hide the loudest desire. In this new season, a story long left in the shadows steps into the light, challenging the rules of society, loyalty, and love itself. And it all begins with the woman no one expected to fall again, and the man bold enough to make her believe she could. Soft golden light spills through the tall windows of Bridgerton House, turning the quiet morning into something almost unreal. The camera moves through the empty halls, slow, gentle, haunting, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. Candles flicker against polished marble. The distant echo of a string quartet rises as silhouettes dance in slow motion inside a dimly lit ballroom. No faces, only the movement of gowns, the whisper of gloves brushing, the tension of hands almost touching yet never truly meeting. A carriage rushes through the early morning fog, wheels carving lines in the dew-covered road. The driver urges the horses forward with urgency, as if carrying a secret too heavy to delay. The screen cuts between the carriage and the Bridgerton garden, where petals fall like soft rain. There is beauty everywhere. But something about this day feels heavier, deeper, as though romance and destiny are threading themselves into something new. The silhouette of Violet Bridgerton stands quietly near a window, her posture calm, but her presence filled with unspoken longing. She looks out onto the garden, hands gently clasped, the light outlining her figure, but never showing her face. The camera lingers on her stillness, a woman who has lived through love, loss, motherhood, and duty, learning long ago to hide her deepest emotions behind grace. Yet her breath trembles just slightly, suggesting thoughts she may have promised herself she'd never revisit, as the carriage stops at the entrance. Its door opens slowly. A figure steps out, tall, composed, familiar to no one, yet instantly significant. The man moves with quiet confidence, his silhouette sharp against the mist. We do not see his face, only the intensity in the way he carries himself, as if he has come for something he can no longer ignore. The music builds. The ballroom dancers fade. The petals fall slower. A voice cuts through the silence, deep, warm, and heavy with promise. In a season where secrets bloom like spring roses, a new story is ready to begin. And with that, the camera closes in on Violet's hand as it tightens around the window frame, subtle, trembling, hinting that the arrival of this stranger is not merely a visit, but the beginning of a change she never expected. A cold breeze sweeps through the Bridgerton doorstep as the stranger's boots touch the stone ground. The moment feels heavier than a simple arrival, almost like fate pushing open a long-closed door. Inside the house, the soft hum of morning chatter falls silent. As though every corner senses the shift brought by this man, Violet remains at the window, though something inside her shifts. She stands straighter. Still calm, still composed, but no longer untouched by curiosity. Her breath slow, her heart steady, yet her thoughts anything but. The camera focuses on her silhouette, the blur of her dress, the slight incline of her head. She is a woman who has known life's deepest joys and darkest sorrows. But something about this arrival unsettles her in a way she cannot name. Downstairs, The mysterious man steps forward, handing his coat to a footman. He moves with ease, yet carries an invisible weight. His posture suggests confidence, but his pause at the entrance hints at hesitation, or perhaps memory. A shadow passes over him, and for a moment the screen slows, his hand gripping his hat as though bracing himself for what is to come. Quick cuts flash across the screen like whispers. A folded letter slipping under a door. Two silhouettes in the hallway freezing mid-conversation. A glimpse of Lady Danbury's cane tapping sharply against the floor. The air thickens with speculation. The Tun lives for gossip. But today the gossip is more than idle chatter. It's the beginning of a storm. A voiceover breaks the silence, softer but edged with tension. Lady Violet Bridgerton believed her days of passion had long since faded, until the arrival of a gentleman whose past is tangled with secrets of his own. Back inside, Violet turns slightly as a footman quietly announces the visitor's name. The words hang in the air. Marcus Anderson. The name hits like a forgotten melody, familiar yet distant, stirring something buried deep within her. Her hand, resting gracefully on the window frame, curls inward for just a second. Not fear, not excitement. Something in between. Something dangerous. Marcus steps into the hall, eyes lifting toward the staircase where Violet stands hidden behind shadows. Their silhouettes align for the first time, two figures drawn together by something neither expected nor invited. The camera holds the moment, stretched tight with anticipation. This is not a reunion. This is not a spark rekindled. This is the beginning of a conflict Violet never imagined facing again. The conflict of a heart daring to wake after being quiet for far too long. The house is quiet. Almost too quiet as Violet moves through the hallway. Her footsteps soft against the polished floor. She isn't running, but she isn't lingering either. It is the pace of a woman trying not to feel something she already feels. The air around her shifts, warmer somehow, as though the walls themselves recognize the return of a story long unfinished. Marcus stands near a table filled with fresh flowers, their petals brushing his sleeve as he turns slightly. He doesn't see her at first only, her reflection in the glass of a framed portrait. A gentle blur. A hint of movement, a memory disguised as a shadow. When he does notice her silhouette, he pauses, breath catching just once. The kind of moment a man only has when facing the person he thought he would never see again. Their paths cross in the hallway. Close enough for a touch, but still separated by years of restraint. Violet hesitates. She doesn't speak. She doesn't smile. She simply lowers her gaze, a gesture more telling than 1,000 words. Her gloved hand rests on the edge of a table, steadying her in a moment that feels too alive. Too fragile. Marcus steps forward, not too bold. Not too timid, just enough for the distance between them to tremble. His hand brushes lightly against hers as he reaches for a fallen flower petal. The touch is accidental, or perhaps perfectly timed by the universe. The contact is brief, almost forgettable, but it sends a ripple through the quiet hall. A spark neither of them can pretend not to feel. The screen slows, capturing the simple moment in breathless detail, the slight widening of Violet's eyes, the tension in Marcus's posture, the petal slipping from his fingers like a secret refusing to stay hidden. Then the scene shifts to a ballroom from a past memory, or maybe a dream, where faceless dancers glide under golden light. Violet and Marcus appear among them, silhouettes only, turning slowly in a dance they never truly had, but always wished for. The music swells, soft but full, wrapping them in a warmth untouched by time. Their movement is delicate, stolen, suspended between desire and hesitation. A voiceover whispers through the moment like a confession, carried by wind. When desire awakens where it was never meant to bloom, even the quietest glance becomes a promise. The memory fades. The hallway returns. Their hands fall back to their sides. Leaving the brief spark flickering in the space between them, Violet finally lifts her chin, meeting Marcus's eyes not with welcome, not with refusal, but with a question she is afraid to ask. The world feels strangely new, as if this single moment has rewritten years of certainty, and though no words are exchanged, the truth is clear. Something inside both of them has shifted, and neither knows how to undo it. The sun dips lower over London, turning the sky the color of spilled amber. With dusk comes the first wave of whispers, those quiet, harmless murmurs that often grow into the storms capable of tearing reputations apart. In the drawing rooms and parlors of every notable household, fans flutter faster, heads lean closer, and eyes sharpen with curiosity. Something is happening within the Bridgerton home, and society can smell the story forming. A pair of Featherington silhouettes huddle beneath a lantern, their shadows long and pointed. One figure leans in, whispering with urgency, while the other gasps softly, her gloved hand flying to her lips. The camera doesn't reveal the words, only the reaction, the widening eyes, the quick exchange of looks that scream scandal. The lantern flickers violently in the wind as though even the flame is gossiping. Inside Queen Charlotte's palace, her silhouette sits upright, posture regal, yet deliciously entertained. She holds a letter fresh, sealed with elegance and delivered with haste. Her earrings catch the light as she tilts her head, listening to her own chambermaid whisper the rumors growing across the ton. The queen does not speak. She only smiles. That alone is enough to confirm it. London is waking to the scent of new romance, and the queen is already amused. Across the city, Lady Whistledown's quill scratches sharply against the parchment. The camera lingers over her gloved hand as she writes with precision, her letters curved and graceful. She pauses only once, tapping the quill against her chin, as if deciding how harsh she should be. The candle beside her crackles, sending shadows dancing across the page, shadows that look suspiciously like Violet's silhouette. Cut back to Bridgerton House, where servants exchange nervous glances. A maid walks briskly through the hall, nearly bumping into another, who whispers, "Is it true?" The answer is a hushed, "No one knows." But everyone is certain.